All right, this is going to seem a little bit random, but we're going to talk about how do you generate electricity now. Well, we make electricity by like dams. We have like wind power. I heard that you could burn coal and you could get electricity. I heard there's this thing called nuclear power. What we're trying to do is wrap our heads around how all these work. First of all, let's talk about a dam. You know how to make a dam. It's just you take a big old concrete wall and you put it in a river and you block the river. And then it goes like this. You got block the river and there's like a big lake here, and then down here is going to be the river again. And then there's a hole in this wall. And in this hole, this is it. There's a propeller, there's a shaft, and around the shaft there's copper wire, and then there's magnets. Like a magnet here and a magnet here. And the way that a dam works is that the water goes right through here, it turns to a propeller, and then when the propeller moves the copper wire by the magnets, bam, you get electricity. That's how a dam works. Now in class, we talked about some things that are bad for dams, and we'll come back and we'll revisit that another time later in class. All right, that's how it is. Propeller, copper wire, and magnets. You know where I'm going. Wind. How do you generate electricity with wind? You're right. Propeller, copper wire, and magnets. You just get a big old propeller, and then there's going to be a shaft, and on this shaft there's going to be copper wire, and then there's going to be some magnets right here and right here. And then the wind is going to make it turn, move the copper wire by the magnets, bam, you get electricity. Oh, I understand that. What about coal? How can you get energy by burning coal? Well, what you do is you get a big old pot of water. I mean, you get a huge pot of water. And then you put a lid on it. And then coal burns at a super high temperature. You take some coal and you burn it under this huge pot of water. It's going to make the water boil. And when it boils, it's going to turn to steam. And then when you got a bunch of steam here, I said you got a lid on it. And out of this lid, there's going to be a pipe. And this pipe is going to get narrower and narrower and narrower. So the steam's going to go up this pipe. And as it gets narrower and narrower and narrower, the speed of the steam is going to increase. And what's in the pipe? Yes, propeller, copper wire, and magnets. So what it's going to do is it's going to turn the propeller, move the copper wire by the magnets, bada boom, bada bing, you got electricity. Oh, to finish off the story, what you're going to do over here, you're going to have another pot of water. Another pot. And then all of a sudden, all this steam is going to come in here. And the steam is going to condense and turn back into water. And then what you're just going to do is you're going to pump this water over there. So you got a great system. You're just burning coal, you turn it to steam, it cools down to water, then you boil it off, it just keeps going like this, and it keeps moving that propeller and generating electricity. Oh, in class we talked about some bad things about burning the coal and what it's doing in the environment. We'll continue that later in class. Nuclear power? How does nuclear power work? Well, the same thing. Underneath here, you just do a nuclear fission. You split some atoms. That generates a whole bunch of heat. When you generate a bunch of heat, makes steam. Steam turns propeller, copper wire, and magnets. So nuclear power is the same as coal. The reason why we're talking about all this is because we just learned about tides. Can you? Can you make electricity by using the oceans? Can you make electricity by using the oceans? I mean, if the tides are constantly going out and then coming back in and then going out, could you? Could you put a propeller with a shaft, copper wire, and magnets? The answer is yes. That is what they're trying to do. They're trying to come up with a way to use this, and I gave you that article, and you read that article, and that's what the article was talking about, is that they're trying to do that. And there's two universities that are working on this problem. One is the University of Washington, and the other is Oregon State University. If you're an engineer, a mechanical engineer or a civil engineer, you're working on this because there's a problem with salt water. Salt water makes metal rust. Well, if this is copper wire and magnets, it's just going to rust. So can you just develop something that won't rust or will keep this from rusting? If you could do this, then you could solve this issue. The other issue that we have is like, my mom always told me never use my hair dryer in the bathtub because if I drop it, I get electrocuted. Oh. Are you not doing the same thing here? You're making electricity in the water. How do you get this electricity to land? Somehow, you got to get it to land. You need like an underwater cable to bring it up. Well, there are storms, there's things that happen. So if this cable breaks, like it happens on land, like power lines break, well, if this breaks, it's going to electrocute the environment in the ocean. Got to solve that problem. Another problem is, things live in the water. Like salmon. We care about salmon here. Well, salmon live in the ocean, and then they swim, and they're going to come up to a river. And if they swim, and they come up, they see this thing in front. What are they going to do? They might get scared, and they may move away. See, another thing is like maybe it changes migration patterns. And if it changes the migration pattern of the salmon, does that affect other things? Well, maybe it's not the salmon, maybe it's the gray whale, or maybe it's some things we're not even aware of. So that's why University of Washington and Oregon State are working on this problem. If you're a marine biologist, you're seeing, can we put this in there in the ocean and see if it doesn't generate power? Change migration. I looked at my timer because I only have 10 minutes of my video, so I got to talk about the other part. Another way they're looking at making electricity using the oceans is by waves. See, the ocean makes big waves. And another way that they're doing it is you get like a floating buoy, and on this floating buoy you have a cable. And on that cable, propeller, copper wire, and magnets. So now, when this buoy goes up the waves, and down the waves, and up the waves, and down the waves, what it's going to do is it's going to turn this propeller, 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 and you constantly generate electricity by using the waves. Again, the same issues are, like how do you get the electricity to land? And is this going to harm the environment? And how do you keep it from rusting? Bam. That's what we talked about in class.